Math 3, Unit 1, Section 2. We're going to start on describing translations. And so there are two things that they're basically asking us to do here. The first thing is that they want us to graph and label f of x and g of x on the same axis, and then describe what is happening if you move something from the f of x equation onto the g of x equation. Okay? You might want to use two different colors for these if you want to, but you don't have to. And so here we go. We're going to start with our f of x equation on number 1. So what is my starting point on my f of x equation? Very good. 3, -4. Also, what type of graph is this going to end up making? These are going to end up making a line. These are linear. In fact, I might go ahead and write that as linear. Since there is no squared on the x, there's no exponents, we know it's linear. Okay, and so we're going to go right 3 and then -4. When you are drawing lines, we can plug points into our equation, or what's the other thing I can use in order to make a line? Slope. And so what is my slope on this one? Good. The slope is 1/2. And so from here, I'm going to go up 1, right 2, or down 1 and left 2. And we'll draw our line. Okay? And I'm using different colors, but we should still label this as our line for f of x. Next we have g of x. What is my starting point for g of x? -2, 3. Anybody have questions on that? Okay. So we go left 2, up 1, 2, 3, make our point. And what is my slope there? Good, it's still 1/2. And so from there, I'm going to go up 1, right 2, or down 1 and left 2. And we draw our line and label that one as g of x. Okay, and our next thing is that we need to describe our translation. So notice that it's saying f of x to g of x. It would be a different translation if you were going from g of x to f of x. So make sure you're starting at the correct line. So I like to go to where my starting points are. So here was my starting point, and here was my starting point. And so how do I get from one point to the next? So remember, when you're writing your translation part, that you need to start with the x part first, however much it's going left and right. And so if you count here, from here, f of x, trying to get to g of x over here, I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is everyone okay with that? So that's -5. And then from there, it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's +7. And we could also write that out. Translate left 5 and up 7. Okay, any questions? No? Okay. Let's move on to number 2 then. So on number 2, starting with f of x, where would be my vertex or starting point? -2, 3. So we go -2 and up 1, 2, 3. What direction should this graph end up going? Down. Okay. To be more accurate, we're going to go ahead and get another point. But when we are just writing what translations are, as long as you have your starting point, the starting point on one and the starting point on the other is really all you need, because we're just describing where the starting point is moving from one place to get to the other. Does that kind of make sense? But just for practice and all this, we're going to go ahead and make sure we're accurate on how we're graphing the whole parabola. Or, yeah. Okay. So from here, what would be another value I could plug in? 0. I think 0 is a good one to choose. We know we don't want to plug in -2 because we've already used -2 for x. -2 for x, so we can plug in 0 for x. If I do that, we get y equals negative and 0 plus 2 squared plus 3. What's 0 plus 2? 2. Okay, and then we're squaring 2. So 2 squared is 4. So that means we end up with a -4. Because we square that and there's still a negative in front. And -4 plus 3 equals -1. Good. And so this ordered pair is what? Good. 0, -1. So 0, -1. Okay, can you tell me where the symmetrical point would be for the other part of this? Good. -4, -1 is correct. Because see how this is 2 away here from getting to that vertex line, that symmetrical line, and so I'd go 2 more on the other side. And so that value is at -1, 2, 3, 4, -1. And we can go ahead and draw that. And that's f of x. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take care of g of x. Okay, so what's my vertex or starting point for g of x? Good. 5, -1 is correct. Is anybody confused on how I'm getting those values? We're good? Okay. So 5, -1. So starting at 0, 0, we go right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down 1. Okay, and I'm just going to highlight that too because that's my starting point. Okay, and we could go ahead and plug in a value if we want to. What would be a good value to choose? You could plug in 0. That's really far away from the vertex though. Do you see that? And so oftentimes it's a good idea to choose something like 1 or 2 away from the vertex. And so let's just choose 6. Would that be okay with everybody? So I'm just going 1 away from the vertex, which is 6. And if you look up here, we're going to plug this into our equation. Y equals negative. And then I have 6 minus 5 squared minus 1. And see how it kind of keeps smaller numbers? Because 6 minus 5 is what? 1, and 1 squared is 1. And so we end up with -1 minus 1, which equals -2. So this point is at what? 6, -2. So we know this is already 5. We go to 6. We go down 1, 2. Where would be the other point on the opposite side? Good. 4, -2 is correct. Oh, I forgot to use a different color. And we'll label that as g of x. Okay, so I'm just going to give you less than a minute, but try to write your translation. Starting at f of x and moving to g of x, what happens? Okay, so how many does it move in the x direction?
7.
Good, 7 is correct. And then how many in the y? Good, -4. And then if we want to write this out in words here, I'm just going to write translate right 7 and down 4. Okay, any questions? We're good? Okay. We're going to move on to the next example, and there is a typo on this one. And that is that these should not be squared. What type of graphs are these going to be? Very good. Absolute value is correct. And absolute value graphs make a V shape. Good. Okay, so starting with f of x, what will be my starting point? Good. -2, -4 is correct. So we're going to go ahead and go -2 and down 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is our vertex or starting point, and I'm going to highlight that so I know that's where I started. Okay, based on that point, what would be a good value to choose? We can plug in 1, or we can plug in 0, or we can plug in -1. I'm thinking that either -1 or 0 are good choices. So from your vertex, going 1 or 2 away is usually best. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll plug in 0. Okay, so we have 3 absolute value of 0 plus 2 minus 4. 0 plus 2 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. Okay, good. So we get 3 times 2 minus 4. 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 minus 4 is 2. So that ordered pair, what did I plug in for x? 0, and I got the answer of 2. So 0 up 2 is right here. Everybody good with this so far? Where would be the other point? Good. -4, 2 is correct. So we go 2 here to get to where that vertex line is, and then you go 2 more away. And this is f of x. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute here to try g of x on your own. So I want you to graph g of x. And actually, once you graph g of x, try to see if you have the right translation. And I'll walk around and I can help some of you or check your answers. Does anybody have questions right now? the translated value should have been, so how did you get from f of x to g of x? How did it move? Okay, 3, 7 is correct, if you got that. So let's go ahead and check this out here one more time. So looking here at my g of x equation, my vertex or starting point is what? 1, 3. Give me a thumbs up if you're good. You understand how to get the vertex. Okay, if you don't get it, you'd give me a thumbs down, right? Okay, so 1, 3. So I go right 1, up 1, 2, 3. There's my vertex. So looking at this, I already have the x value for my vertex at 1. So what's a good value to choose on this one? You want to go 1 to the right or 1 to the left? Okay? In this case, I think I would choose the value of 0. I'm plugging in 0 into this equation right here. So that means we'd have y equals 3 absolute value of 0 minus 1 plus 3. I'm plugging in 0 for my x value. So when I'm making my ordered pair here, 0 is my x value and I have to find the y. I find the y by simplifying. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. What's the absolute value of negative 1? 1. So we get 3 times 1 plus 3. What's 3 times 1? 3, and 3 plus 3 makes 6. So this ordered pair is 0, 6. Are we good? Yes? Okay. So 0 up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did I do something wrong again?
No, I was confused.
Are we okay with this now? Okay, good. So, do you see how I'm 1 away here from this? From where my vertex is, this symmetrical line, because this is a symmetrical line here, which means I'm going to go 1 away on the other side. And this helps me make my V. Okay, there is a shortcut on absolute value graphs. But I don't want to tell you guys because I don't want to confuse anybody. But there is one. So if you think you figure it out and you want to ask me about it, you can. Do you guys know the shortcut? No? Okay, well, we'll talk about it another time. Okay, so translating on this one, how did it translate from f of x to g of x? How many did it go on the x-axis? 3 is right. So from here we went 1, 2, 3 to the right, which means we would write a positive 3. Good. And then from there on the y part, how many did it go up? Very good. And so we would write translate right 3 and up 7. Questions? Okay, we're going to do this next one. This type of graph is called, very good, exponential is correct. Do we have questions? No? Okay. Exponential graph. So I want to start, when I have my exponential graphs, I always like to start with my parent graph. Okay, do you see how this has a base of 2? And so my parent graph would be y equals 2 to the x before there's any translating and stuff. So I just need to mark 2 points for my exponential graph, plus you'll have your asymptote. And so we have x and y. What happens when I plug in 0? 2 to the 0 equals 1. Okay, then when I plug in 1, 2 to the first equals 2. Good. Everybody okay so far? And so these are not actual points on my graph, but at at my starting point, I'm going to put an X here at 0, 1, and an X at 1 up 2. We also know there's an asymptote at 0 to start. Okay, and so this is where my parent graph is. Then I'm going to go back here to f of x. And on this one, I'm going to just translate. So for f of x, I need to translate which way? Close. Yes, you were right. You just said it the opposite way, but you said it right. Okay, so good job. So right 3 and up 1. Okay, and if you want to just write right 3 up 1, that is okay. Give me a thumbs up if you understand why we're going right 3 up 1. Anybody confused and want to ask me a question? Say that one more time. Oh, some of you have to leave right now? Okay, you are only going to do on your homework. I need to find my homework here. Yes. So, and then go back and finish your domains and ranges. Okay? So 1 through 12. Okay. Now, so from this X, what am I going to do? From this X, we're going to go right 1, 2, 3, up 1. Same thing with the second X. Right 1, 2, 3, up 1. Where is my asymptote for the f of x? 1 is correct. So because we moved up 1 with each of these points, the asymptote also moves up 1. So this is my f of x graph. Now we need to do what? G of x. Okay, so how is my g of x going to translate? Very good. Left 4, down 5. Okay? Left 4, down 5. And we have to go back to our parent graph. So here were my x's for my parent graph. I'm going to go left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 5. Okay, and then I go to my second point. Left 4, down 5. Yes. Yes. On your exponential functions, I think that's the easiest way to do it. Yes. And then we're going to talk about the translating from f of x to g of x after. Okay? What has happened with my asymptote? It had to go down 5, correct? So it was at 0 originally with my parent graph, and we go down 5. Okay, and we'll label that one as our g of x equation. And so what has happened on this translation from f of x to g of x? So again, I would start from where my first point was for my 0, 1 point before we translated it. Okay, and so from f of x to g of x, what happened? So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Left 7? Do you guys agree? So that's negative 7. And then from there it went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So negative 6. Translate left 7 and down 6. Okay, any questions there?